And we're back on Shardlight Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Ben, and on today's episode, I am just going to ramble about a bunch of different things. There's been a whole bunch of little topics that wouldn't necessarily make a whole episode by themselves, and I'm going to just run down kind of the highlights of the last week or so's worth of news. So to begin, last Wednesday, I put out my episode about the 002 drama and how it had caused a very prominent player to publicly exit the game. Later that same day, Jim from Argent Saga did a live stream and addressed that controversy more or less head on. Now, the team didn't capitulate to pre-banning 002 before it was released or anything like that, and I think that's probably the right call, but Jim did apologize to the community as a whole. Yes, for those that watched it, his choice of words was fairly corporate, but I don't think you can really criticize someone who's running a corporation for having that kind of level of corporate professional gloss on what they say. Given what caused all of this drama was some unprofessional behavior, I think, again, that's a mitigating factor where you kind of have to say, okay, this is more about Jim and John reconciling than it is about a public apology to everybody. And I think all that's fine. John also made a statement about how they both kind of behaved not the best and they want to put it behind them. And I think all that's great. The bottom line is two very influential people in the Argent Saga community butted heads in a very public way, and it got a little bit out of hand, and I'm glad that the last I have to say about this particular drama is that all fences appear to be mended, and we can go ahead and focus on how busted 002 is once the cards come out. There were updates in this live stream about a number of other things, so I'm going to run down what the bullet points are that I took in my sloppy notes. So first, the biggest thing I think is that Sylphia and Gloom Oligarch are going to be banned as of November 14th, which is the same day that Aragon gets out of suspension jail and Revelations releases. As kind of a side note, there was talk about the ban restricted limited list and whether that should have an S added to it. So banned, restricted, limited, or suspended list. And Jim kind of made a offhand comment about how, well, I hope we don't have to use suspension again. So it seems like suspension was sort of a patchwork move that the team implemented to make sure that Richmond and Columbus have decent events and that the locals between Indy and the release of Revelations were not just dominated by slow, grindy Aragon Fest. And that's fine. We don't have to have a suspended list. I think it's great that they took action, and I think it actually illustrates a little bit more credit that the team deserves, that they implemented a course of action that they had not already previously planned for, and it seems like they may not want to have to use again. I've said several times that I think it's a real feather in the cap of the team that they were willing and able to act so quickly. Another detail that was revealed in the live stream is that not all promo cards will eventually see wider releases. The example that Jim specifically mentioned was that Yuki was the Kickstarter and then the October LGS kit, and that she might not be printed again. Well, we can take that to maybe mean that she won't be printed in a sealed pack or in an expansion pack again, or maybe not, but there is a third way to get Yuki, which was revealed yesterday, and that is there is a whole wave of metal cards that are coming out, and Yuki is one of those cards. Now, these cards will be available for purchase on the Argent Saga website, and they can be bought for either shard points or for cash. So it's $25 for the card, or I think they're all 75 shard points. I might need to double check and make sure, but they're relatively expensive, and these are all very cool. Yeah, okay, confirmed. 25 each or 75 shard points. Notably, the Argent Shard is among them. So this is the 5th version of Argent Shard we've seen, I think. There's the Alpha, the Intro, the full art foil, and now a full art metal. Yeah, that's the 5th version of Argent Shard. They're also doing the Nightmare Crystal, the Cryptic Crystal, the Hollowed Crystal, the Zephyr Crystal, the Wavering Crystal. So if you want to have an all-metal shard deck, you would have to give up the Corona Legendary Shard, but other than that, you're getting real close to an all-metal shard. Imagine how cool that would be to just slam that down. Clink, clink, clink. Grab and release your metal cards like poker chips. That's a power move. Out of the remainder of the cards that are getting this metal card collectible treatment, these are basically all good choices. So both Yuki and GZ appear here. So if you were not able to get to a promo event where those were available, here's an opportunity where you can just straight up buy them. Now, $75 for a playset of GZ is really expensive, but if you have the shard points and you really want to play that red deck, this is a way to get it that isn't going to hurt your bank quite as much. They also did the legendary cards out of Betrayal. So Bahamut, Patriarch of the Golem, the Leviathan, and Mayu, the Grand Sorcerer. So Blue got both of their legendaries treated into metal cards. Dark got the Patriarch. Fire got Bahamut, but not the Phoenix. That seems a little uneven. Now, Dark did also get Hoenna. Oh, and Sylphia. I'm reading this list while I'm trying to talk at the same time. So Sylphia is getting that treatment as well. And lastly, Rudy, my favorite card, is also going to be available as a metal card. Now, I think these are really cool. I have not actually held one of the metal cards yet, so I'm not sure how it's going to feel to be in a deck and to actually play with these things. And clearly, nobody's going to have an all-metal deck at this point. There just simply aren't enough playable cards that have been given the metal treatment. But giving people the ability to buy up some of this really cool Argent Saga stuff without having to travel across the country and pay an entry fee for a tournament and a hotel room and everything else, I think this is great. Along these same lines, Jim put a poll up on the Argent Saga Facebook page, I want to say it was Monday, asking how people would feel about the ability to buy VIP promo packages and not attend the event. So up until now, these awesome VIP promo packages with pins and dice and mats and exclusive cards and just all kinds of cool stuff have been available to people who go to these championships. I think the big deal one is $100. I think there's like a regular entry fee and you get some cool stuff, and then for $100 that covers your entry fee plus a lot more stuff. And people had been asking, well, can I buy this and have somebody pick it up for me or have somebody mail it to me? And up until now, the answer has been no, but it looks like they're exploring the idea of allowing players to purchase the VIP package and then have the content of that mailed to them as opposed to having to come pick it up at a championship. I cannot say enough positive things about that. You're giving players who would not otherwise be able to participate in these formative, important events, which will go forward in Argent Saga history, being able to have a piece of that really is going to get your player base to buy in more. Now, I was going to say I'm sensitive to, but that's the wrong word. I am aware of this argument that scarcity increases value, and part of the value to the players who purchase these promo kits is that they can turn around and resell them. I just flat out do not care about that perspective at all. I think getting more of these cards out into the wild, while yes, it may drive down the value a little bit, I think having the entire West Coast have access to these collectible promos, which stores could then turn, so you buy a VIP kit and then you turn around and use that as prize support as your store. So maybe you can't go to Richmond, but you could go to your local game shop and get a little taste of that cool promo action that the people who did attend Richmond were able to get. This is just all positives. Yeah, a few people might not be able to make as many dollars off of their investment into buying the promo kit, but what we're trying to do is grow the game, not allow a few select folks to be able to maximize their profits. I think in terms of the long-term health of the game, this is absolutely the way to go, and any short-term losses I think will be offset as cards grow in value as the game gets older and older. These first wave things will eventually increase in value, even if they don't have that same spike that the kind of artificial scarcity created initially. Along the same point, Jim did explicitly say that a certain number of these promos are printed. That number will not be changed. So the total available copies of, say, Ash is going to be the same whether they are all given out to people at the event or whether some percentage are mailed to people who didn't attend the event. I think anybody who's against this is just being super selfish and not thinking about the game as a whole and the best way to grow the game. But that's my opinion. Obviously, other people are entitled to theirs. To circle back to the live stream, because I took a little bit of a detour there, I said this was going to be a bit of a chaotic show at the top. So again, apologies for somebody who likes a nice bullet-pointed list an outline that I follow that you can click on in Google Docs and follow along, maybe highlight important things. Anyway, back to the live stream. Another thing that was revealed was Team Wars. Now this I think is amazing. The way Team Wars would work is within the Eras system that's already tracking your wins and losses and giving you kind of a player ranking, you would now be able to assign your player account to be part of a team. The team will consist of 3 players, and there will be some kind of algorithm or I'm not sure exactly the math behind it, but each of those 3 players' rankings at an event will be calculated together to get like a team score. And I think they said they were going to do like seasons. So throughout the season, teams can earn these points, and then ultimately there'll be a team championship. The winner of which will be able to get professionally designed team jerseys, which I think is a cool prize. I think that's really neat. So Team Wars, I think, is a fantastic thing to add to the game. Already teams exist. So even though Argent Saga is a game that's played one-on-one, you can't practice and get in testing without other people across from you. Already people, while we compete individually, we're still doing all of the background work to prepare for competition in teams. So all this does is take sort of the existing framework and give us an additional outlet to be competitive and another little number that we can chase. I think it's just good all the way around. There will be another LCG style expansion coming. They said the name on the stream, but I no longer recall what it was. It was not Ascension. Now Cataclysm, I think they said. Ascension was the set that was advertised initially during Indie Champs, and when I had Ryan Miles on the show, I asked him what type of expansion it would be, and he would not tell me. But given that we now know they're going to do an LCG style expansion after Revelations and then another booster pack expansion, I think we can say Ascension is going to be the next major booster pack release, and this LCG pack that's coming out, I think January was the month they said. So no content in December, another expansion pack in January, and then a booster pack in February, I believe is what was stated. The next LCG pack, they listened to our feedback, and the 1 pack out of the 12 being foil doesn't make people feel good, so they're just not going to do any foils. And the LCG packs will come down in price to $20 a pack instead of $25 a pack. I think making those cheaper is definitely a move in the right direction. I think revealing the specifics of how that 1 foil pack impacted the price point of all the packs feels awful. Knowing that I spent $75 when I could have spent $60, and that 15 extra bucks went to somebody else getting foil cards. Oh, the optics of that feel terrible. But hey, they tried something, they listened to the feedback, and I don't want to present myself as being a yes man or saying that there's nothing ARG could ever do that was wrong. I certainly have offered some criticism for the way things have been handled along the way, but given the history I have working with other game companies, I play a lot of different games, ARG has consistently made good choices, and when mistakes happen, taken responsibility and worked to try to make the game better. While it's a little disappointing to see that one of the metal collectible cards that's available is Sylphia, a card which is going to be banned in a matter of days, that's not great, but these are the kinds of little mistakes that, as long as they're working to improve the product and to give us great events and overall make the atmosphere of Argent Saga better, can't be that upset. Yes, we should call them out when they do things wrong, but the majority of things, when there is a problem, they work to correct it. On to the next thing. I want to promote an event at my local store. Geek City Games and Comics in North Liberty, Iowa is going to be hosting a sneak peek event on November 10th at 3 p.m. This is going to be a sealed event, and this is almost a whole topic in and of itself. This is the first time that we have kind of a sanctioned framework for playing sealed in Argent Saga, and I really like it. Haven't done it yet, so I'll report back after I actually play and see how it works, but the gist of it is you bring a champion in spirit. I would suggest bringing a few champions in spirit, since you don't know what your card pool is going to look like, and you build a 20 to 30 card deck out of 5 packs of Revelations. You can use as many cards of your spirit's color as you have in your card pool. as long as you follow the deck building restriction, of course. So the affinity number is ignored. So if I have Sola, I'm not limited to 8 light cards. I can play 15 light cards if that's what my pulls would make sense to put into a deck. You play with 10 shards, all Argent shards, and you play with 3 towers. The recommended towers were fire, light, and water. I love every part of this setup. I really hope it's successful. And if you want to come on out to the event, I'm going to be there with my boy. Love to have you. On these same lines, I want to give a shout out to my friend Brad, fella I met through playing Versus 2PCG, and his store in Lower Bucks County, Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, Wade's Comic Madness. Again, this was a fellow that I met through playing Versus, which is a game that you can find at Wade's Comic Madness, as well as Argent Saga. Lastly, on today's chaotic, crazy episode, I want to touch on the general power level of Revelations. I haven't talked about many of the spoilers on the show. Doing general card reviews before I get a chance to play with the cards is usually speculative, and while it can be fun, I don't know that it's ultimately super useful for the audience, because I don't really know what I'm talking about until I know the whole card pool. But looking at the spoilers as they have been revealed, with other games, I have become accustomed to the pattern where the spoilers that are revealed first tend to be a little flat. Maybe there'll be one really exciting card, but then that's where all the filler cards come at the beginning of the spoiler season. And as we get closer and closer to release, that's when more and more exciting cards get revealed. If that trajectory is going to be followed by the Revelation spoiler season, I am mind blown at where the power level of these cards are going to end up. Yes, there have been a few kind of middle of the road or situational or kind of stinkers of cards revealed, but not many. And overall, the power level of these cards worryingly looks to make Betrayal and the previous expansions almost obsolete. These cards are so strong. And while power creep is a thing that I don't think is 100% of the time a bad thing, it definitely is something that needs to be calculated in. A player who buys a bunch of Betrayal and then goes to come back when, say, Ascension comes out, if every card they have is completely outclassed, that's not a great feeling. That said, you do need to have exciting cards in the new set to entice people to buy the new set. So this is a difficult tightrope that needs to be walked, and I am not sure that Revelations is really hitting the mark as far as what counts as an exciting little bump in power versus legit, almost problematic power creep. There are a number of cards in this set that I'm looking at and going, this is going to fundamentally change the game. Now, if every card in the set, well, and I shouldn't say every, now if a large percentage of cards in the set are meta warping levels of power, well, that's not so bad because everybody has access to that. The drawback is, of course, if all the cards that are already in my binder are now coasters, that doesn't feel real great when every time there's an expansion, it renders huge swaths of the previous cards obsolete. I realize other games do things like rotation, and having your cards stop being useful at some point is a thing that happens in card games, but I think the pacing of that needs to be not... It shouldn't be fits and jumps. It shouldn't be huge leaps in power levels, and then we're kind of even at this level, and then another huge leap. I kind of like the idea of expansions iterating and kind of growing out more like a spider web, where, yeah, this deck over here kind of had a power spike. Oh, but there's this card that checks that, and it's a little bit more even and balanced. I'm sure the design team also would like to have a meta where there are multiple viable decks, and not all of those decks rely entirely on Revelations cards, but man, this set looks really strong. One other comment about the LCG style release model that I forgot to mention earlier when I was on that topic. It has now been revealed that there were some number of cards in the Generations expansion that are also preview cards for Revelations. So some number of the cards in Generations and some number of the cards in Genesis, if you bought 3 copies of those expansions, you now have full play sets of rare cards that you're going to get in your Revelations pack. To me, that either devalues the LCG bang for your buck even more, and already those packs stung a little bit at the $25 price point. Now I know they're going to lower it to $20, but if this is a trend that's going to continue, oof, not great. Or it diminishes the excitement you have for Revelation. So either way, it puts an incentive on the player base to not buy one or the other of the products. That's not great. And with Genesis, we were told, with Generations, if that was information that was out there, I completely missed it. And I tend to be looking for this kind of stuff, which means if I missed it, there's a huge percentage of the more casual player base that missed it as well. That's not a great feeling. I did not know that by buying 3 copies of Generations, I was also diminishing the value that I could potentially get out of Packs and Revelations. That needs to be way more upfront. And they did say in the live stream that paying attention to the cards they select for that style of release is an area where they could do some improvement. I agree. I've kind of listed out what my concerns are with that topic throughout the course of this episode. So this has been all over the place, longer than my typical show, but I had a whole bunch of like little things and I felt like rambling. So until next time, go win some games.